Welcome to One Stop Web Solutions YouTube channel. I'm your host, George Stamoulis. So what we're going to be discussing today is the difference between WordPress and Shopify, right? So both WordPress and Shopify are very popular platforms. But I think to the digital entrepreneur just starting out, it can be quite confusing as to which one they should use because they'll go do research and it's like, oh, this one's better, that one's better. So what we're going to start is, so both of these are platforms for hosting websites, but they're sort of different. So WordPress is a free content management system that you can use to create a website, right? So what WordPress is really useful for is building blogs and e-brochure websites. Now, when I say e-brochure, I'm talking about an electronic brochure, okay? Basically, like if you took a little brochure that you had for your business and you made it into a website, that's what an e-brochure is, right? So it's very, very good for doing that, and it's very cost effective for being a blog, right? It's very, very cost effective, right? Now, so even though it's cost effective at being a blog, it can be extended. So you can actually turn a WordPress site into a e-commerce platform, which is an online store. You can do it. Now, a lot of people think that they should go with WordPress because WordPress is cheap. And it's like, while it is true that the base version of WordPress at WordPress.org is free, but chances are if you actually start working with websites in WordPress, you're probably going to need to make use of paid plugins at some point. And so it can start to add up in terms of costs with WordPress if you start adding all these plugins, right? The other problem with WordPress is that if you upload a WordPress website to a server for that you've got a hosting company account for, if you go to the hosting company with a problem, chances are, not all of them, but chances are a lot of the hosting company is going to be like, go to your developer. Now, if you are your own developer and you're just starting out, that becomes a real problem. The thing that I learned about working with WordPress is that, like, you're going to encounter problems here and there, right? So while WordPress is really, really good for building blogs and e-brochure websites, in the long run, it's not going to save you money to use a WordPress website if you're planning to do anything more than build a blog, right? If you're planning to do a lot more with a blog, with the WordPress website, you probably might want to look into Shopify, because if you start to add up the costs of all the plugins, it can add up to more than what Shopify costs a month, depending on what plugins you need and what you're using, right? So like I said, WordPress is really, really good for a blog and an e-brochure website. The good thing about it is, because it's a content management system, like Shopify, it lets you modify the text and write articles without having to know a line of code. So that's very, very useful. But like I said, just beware that if you do go down the WordPress route and you to do like stuff like e-commerce, you probably are going to need the help of a developer at some point, right? And so it can add up. Now, this is where we come to Shopify. Shopify, if you want an e-commerce website, I would probably recommend Shopify, right, as over WordPress. Now, the reason that I would recommend Shopify over WordPress is that it's actually more cost efficient, right? So a Shopify website will cost you about $70 AUD a month, right? And Shopify is built from the ground up to be an e-commerce platform, right? So because of that, it's significantly easier to set up for e-commerce than WordPress is. Because it's built in mind with e-commerce, right? That's what it's built to do. Now, the advantage of getting a Shopify website is that, one, the fee that you pay, it covers the hosting and it also covers support. And in my experience, the Shopify support seems to be better than the kind of support that you're going to find with WordPress, right? So if it's a paid plugin, you might be able to find a forum, but Shopify, and the other big advantage is that because it's all on the one platform, right? The thing that I've noticed is that Shopify websites seem to load faster than WordPress websites do, right? Like, especially when you put them on a server, right? Whereas one of the things I noticed about building a Shopify website is that it loads pretty fast from the get-go. Even with the e-commerce functionality. Whereas I found when I was using a WooCommerce website, whenever I would put it on my hosting package that I had, the website was constantly generating 500 internal errors when I would try to update things, right? And I would see that the memory usage of the server was being really used up, which didn't happen when I was on the local host on my own computer. So that's one of the big advantages to Shopify is it's built with e-commerce in mind. The one disadvantage of Shopify is if you just want a blog or an e-brochure website, you're probably better off just sticking with WordPress. It's cheaper. And it pretty much does what you want to do. I almost feel that getting a Shopify website is a waste if you're not using it for e-commerce. So like WordPress, Shopify is a content management system where you can write articles and stuff like that, without having to know a line of code. And in my experience, I have found that, Shopify just doesn't require as many plugins as WordPress does to do things. That being said, one of the disadvantages or the big disadvantages of Shopify is that technically Shopify owns the content on your website, which means if you decide that you don't want to use Shopify anymore and that you want to take your website with you, there's no tool for doing that. You'll have to literally grab your articles off Shopify and you'll literally have to recreate the website again. Whereas if you use a WordPress website and you want to switch hosting, you can, because there's tools like Duplicator, which allow you to easily move a WordPress website to another server, right? So that's the difference between Shopify and WordPress. Shopify is built with being e-commerce platform in mind. WordPress is built for being a blogging platform in mind, but it's been extended so much that it can pretty much do anything that a Shopify website can do, but it's going to require a lot more experience on your end to do things. When I was working with Shopify, I didn't really have to look up too much how to do things. Whereas when you started with WordPress and you start adding plugins, it starts to get a little bit complicated, especially if you're experiencing errors. You're going to have to do things like check logs to see where the error is going wrong. Whereas with Shopify, I haven't really had to do that. I didn't really have any trouble. Everything is just in the one platform, and that's great. So like I said, that was my take on WordPress and Shopify. So what we'll do now is, so that was my take on WordPress and Shopify. Please like and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any comments, please feel free to post in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.